Hello everyone, so welcome to the 8x8 seamless cave door explanation video. And just before I start the video, I would just like to, give you some background details while you can look at this door working, I guess. So this door is 14 by 14 by 6, 1176 blocks. It uses honey blocks and also targets, as you can see, so it's 1.16 plus. But yeah, other than that, this door is actually quite decent. It's about 93% dense, and also it's entityless. So yeah, it's pretty nice. And I guess I've also used some cool tricks, I guess, although not so much as the 7x7 cave door. And with considerations of the Compact Redstone series, I have decided that my explanation will be separated into three categories. So the first category would be timings and working principle. The second would be piston or powering layout construction, sequencing, and input joins. And the third one will be planning and redstone analysis. I'm aware that planning and redstone analysis, these are not topics that I have taught before, but I guess you can get a taste from this video. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll start with the beginner level stuff, so which will be the timings and working principle. Here we're going to answer these two main questions. So the first one would be, how does the door work? And the second one would be, what are the timings needed to make the extenders or just other components work? So we would divide it into several questions, 8 of them in total. So let's get started. So our first main concern is to know the timings regarding the bottom flush piston folded double piston extender, which is this guy right here. So how does this work? Okay, so as per usual, we will analyze the timings together. So let's say this lever, power is at 0. We ignore input bugs. So we have 1 tick, and then we have 5 tick. So 5 tick of delay and 4 tick pulse. Here will be 1 tick only, or 2 game ticks if you like. So this will power this piston at 2 ticks after, or 4 game ticks after. Okay, now we will also see that this observer also powers this piston, and this will push this solid block up, causing this to depower at 1, because the block is instantly moved away at 1 tick delay. So it will get pulled back, and then 2 tick or 4 game tick, this piston powers. Okay, and then 5 tick, this piston powers. Now, okay, here's the important thing. The important thing is that we need to time this piston at this level to power at the correct timing. And the correct timing will be 1 tick after this piston fires. Now, you can try to verify yourself that other timings actually don't work if we are talking about this 4 tick pulse right here. And similarly, 3 tick pulse doesn't work, only 4 tick pulse work. So, okay, we will have the piston will move to here. So we need 1 extra tick of delay to power this piston. Now this circuit does it. So let's count how much delay this has. So this is 1. We have 2. And this will retract here. And then after another 2 ticks, so 1, 2, and then another 2 ticks, 3, 4, because of this piston base we are detecting. So the other poles will be 2 ticks after. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this piston will be here, like so. And then it will push this observer, which is actually a 2 tick delay. So 5, 6. So 6 tick or 12 game ticks of delay, it will power this block and power the piston in there. So yeah, that is exactly 1 tick after. So this is 5 ticks or 10 game ticks, and this will be 6 ticks or 12 game ticks. So that's how this works. So we can also see it like so. And then we also have to push this back actually, so I'll explain the top a bit later. And you can see that when the slider pushes down, this dropper will be fired. This will, fire this piston. And the opening is also quite similar. This dropper will also push up, so it will also fire the piston. And then we do the exact same thing as described just now. And then we just have to do that. And yeah, you can see this piston will cover up for seamlessness. So that's how the timings work for the bottom part, and very closely related is the top part. But before that, I'll also explain, this block in case anyone's wondering. So we notice that when does this get fired? Well, we have the rising edge here and the falling edge here to here. So we can see what happens. So this is quite standard, but then when the slider push down, what will happen? So 2 ticks after, or 4 game ticks after, this observer will fire this dropper. And 6 game tick or 3 ticks after, it will fire this piston. And similarly, 2 tick, 3 tick. So 3 tick or 6 game ticks after, it will fire this piston as well. Now these 2 pistons fire at the same time, and hence this piston is never going to retract this block. That's per expected. Now the opening is quite similar. They fire at the same time, so this piston is never going to grab this block because the block still needs time to retract. But then the falling edge poles now will have the opportunity to retract the block like so, via here. So yeah, pretty standard, I would say. It's just some timings, and yeah, just to manage if they should power. Actually, there are quite a lot of alternatives as well, but then this is the one that I found that is the cleanest of all, so I use this one. Like previously, there are quite a lot of versions where this might spam a bit or something, but yeah, this is the cleanest version that I found. And either way, now we will get to the top. So the first question is answered. Now we go on to the second question. So how does the top work? Okay, so let's just see here. We have this that will retract. This observer will fire this redstone line and then retract this. So pretty standard here. So this is 2 ticks of delay, so 2 to 3. Because observer is 1 tick pulse or 2 game tick pulse. So this has 2 ticks of delay to power this 1 tick repeater, and the 1 tick repeater has another tick of delay. So that's 3, 4, 5. So 5 ticks of delay to power this here. Alright. So that's very sufficient for this piston. And then we'll have another pulse, which is actually not with this observer, but we will have another pulse that will power this 4 tick repeater. And then, so now you might think, how does this work? You have to recall from 2-3 racing condition to find out. But essentially what happens is that this piston gets pushed here and has a higher priority to power than this piston via this observer. So this powers, and then 4 ticks after, this retracts, and then this will power. It's just like that. Very standard stuff. And the opening is also very similar, but I'll also talk about this here. So this powers, 2 ticks for this, 1 tick here, so 3 ticks. And then this will push. Okay. And also it will power this piston while it's powering the redstone line. So very nice. And then now, as I've said, it's 3 ticks. So the opening is quite similar. So 2 ticks from this observer and then 3 ticks here. So 3 to 4. And then the block can only be retracted at 5.5 because, 4 tick, this piston starts to retract, and it can only retract after 3 game ticks. Although the block arrives after 2 game ticks, it still needs 1 extra game tick to be retracted by this piston right here. So 5.5 ticks, it will be here. So let's count. So 2 here, 3, 4, 5. So this is from 5 to 6. So 6 is larger than 5.5, so which means that this piston will be able to retract this block, like so. And then the openings work in a similar fashion, and it just does that. And it also very conveniently has a circuit that will push this slider down. So yeah, very useful indeed. So that's basically how the top flush piston folded double piston extender work. Alright, so now we'll explain another part. I would say this is also somewhat trivial, I guess, but I'll just explain it for the sake of explaining its entirety. So the third question will be to explain the side singles and double piston extenders, which are these 4 and these 4. So again, we just well, it's just a working principle, so we don't have to really know the timings. Although if you want the timing, sure, but it's not going to really help us in much ways. So just knowing the working principle is good enough here. So let's see. So this piston, very trivial. At falling edge, it'll fire this here. And this 1 tick with this observer is also fired via the falling edge to power this single extender here. This is a single extender. Okay. Now, these 2 single extenders are handled by this observer's rising edge. I use rising edge and falling edge to describe the slider pushed up or pushed down, so yeah, just bear with me. And okay, so the singles are pretty straightforward, but what about the doubles? So let's see this double. This double, rising edge, will get powered by this observer here. It gets pushed up, and this observer, of course, will push that as well. And this does it both rising and falling edge because, you know, rising edge is here, so it will power this here, and of course dropper will be quasi powered, so it will also power this block here and then power the piston. And then the falling edge will be here, and dropper is a solid block, so it will power via the dropper to power this piston, and it will retract, and then it will be left out to here. And if you realize this 1 tick and observer is powered via the falling edge, so this has time to grab this block. So that's how this works basically. And then for this here, this is a bit more special. It only has the extension, not the retraction. But anyways, we'll see. So on the rising edge, it will have this amount of delay. This amount of delay is actually quite precise. For later, we'll see what's going on. But either way, we're not going to go into that deep. But what it essentially does is to power this piston and again this dropper here, and then fire this observer and fire the piston at this level. And then, because this is a 3 tick, so it has the double pulse, so this piston will also retract here and then retract this piston. But then you can realize that when we actually need to retract, it will only retract to at this position because there's nothing that powers it at this position. But then we also have this dust here later, which will actually grab make this piston grab the block. So yeah, we don't have to worry about that. Alright, so okay, we have explained most of the doubles, so, or half of them I should say. So this is actually quite unique because it relies on a single double pulse thing. So let me just show it right here. Okay, so basically on the rising edge, this observer is detecting the observer moving upwards, so it has a double pulse, and on the falling edge, it only has a single pulse because this is a glass block. Okay, so it's equivalent to this setup. Right, so why does this work? Well, we say that this is a double pulse, and this is actually a fast double pulse, the fastest that you can get from observers. So essentially meaning that it has a 2 tick or 4 game tick delay between the two pulses. Okay, so what this means is that this piston is actually going to be detected by the observer, and the observer will emit 3 pulses, as you can see right here. So there's an odd number of pulses, so this gets to extend this block right here. And then on the retraction, it'll do this. Because this is a 2 tick delay, these two observers, so this piston will automatically extend and retract. And yeah, so same for the falling edge case. So yeah, like so. So yeah, pretty straightforward, but I guess quite neat because I managed to fit it in these few blocks only. And yeah, and single-handedly using this one block here just to power this. So yeah, very neat, I would say. And then the last one is actually very straightforward as well. Just a dropper hopper with a comparator powering this double here, and you've all seen the standard double piston extenders, so yeah, they work exactly the same. So that's the result of this. So you see that it will spam a bit, but yeah. And you can also see that this block gets left out, which will be handled by this dust here. So yeah, that's basically the working principle of the sides. Alright, so now we'll move on to another topic, let's say, which will be the timings for the bottom slime honey extenders. So this is where things get interesting, I guess. Now, I'm going to explain the extender first, and then I'll explain the slider. So yeah, they're two separate things. Okay. So, let's just see how the timings work. Alright. So, we have here, which will just do this thing. Then yeah, basically that. Okay, so what happens is that first off we have this comparator. This is the source of everything. Go through node block, 1 tick, 2, 3, 3 ticks, 3 ticks, and then it powers this. So yeah, okay, so this is actually 3 to 4. We can actually mark it down, because marking it down will be useful for us to know why the slider works. So let's just mark it down, so 3 to 4. And for those of you who really like getting ticks and would not shut up about it, so there you go. Okay, so now we will see how this here fires. So this has an observer here, and then this has a 4 tick repeater here, powering through this node block to this piston right here. Okay, so this is, we don't consider the delay from the comparator, we only consider after the comparator. So 1, 5, so this is 5, so this is 5 to 9, and just that. Okay, so what about the other side? The other side is actually quite complicated. It actually involves with the slider, but it doesn't really matter if we really want to consider the slider or not, because we just only need to consider the rising edge case. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 ticks of delay here, and then 6, 7. Actually, no, we only have to consider this 5. So it will be powered at 5 or 10 game tick. So yeah, I'll also change this. Because when the time exactly when it retracts doesn't really matter, because it only matters when you power these blocks. it doesn't matter when you retract this observers. Yeah. So basically that. So you can see these two are in sync, so very nice. Okay. So now there's also one more thing, is that this piston, because we have 3 pistons right here, so we power this one, and then these 2 will go up. So just in case if you are slightly confused what's happening, so this piston will get fired by this piston and observer, and this piston and observer will fire this here. So yeah, that's basically what happens. I guess I'll just leave it in the closed state, so just for your reference. Okay, so what about this piston then? It's actually quite straightforward. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's a 40 repeater there. 6, 7. So that is 7 tick or 14 game tick. Okay. So about this side? This side is actually quite similar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So again, we have 7. 7 tick. Okay. I did. Okay. So that's basically the timings of this extender. I'll explain the significance now as well. So why do we need this here? Well, some we don't have really an explanation. It's just this is the easiest to wire, while others we do have an explanation. The main thing is about the delay between this piston and this piston. Now, these two have 2 ticks or 4 game ticks of delay, and this 2 tick delay is used to facilitate for this piston retracting, and then also allow this piston to retract. Because if you have a 1 tick delay, you know that it doesn't work, because blocks needs 3 game tick to be retracted again. Although it arrives at 2 game tick, it can only be retracted at 3 game tick for normal retractions. So yeah, that's basically it. So that's why 2 tick sufficient enough. And yeah, and this is just slightly more arbitrary, but then this is the best way that I found that it works. So yeah, basically that. So that will be the timings of the extender itself, of course. But then what about the pushers? We also need to know the pushers, right? So let's see when this will extend. This extends at quite a goofy time, actually, because it is but powered by this node block via the 4-tick repeater. And now, since this turns off at 4 or 8 game ticks, what will happen then? Well, this block will arrive at here and can only be pushed up at 5.5. Because 4 plus 1.5, that's 5.5. If you like game ticks, that'll be 11 game ticks for you. So, yeah. Although this powers at 5, this can only extend at 5.5. So, yeah, very goofy timing, actually. What about this side? This side, yeah, unfortunately, this is not sync. Because you see here, we already have 5 ticks here, 6, 7, 8. So this powers at 8, actually. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. But then, I can tell you that there is actually a fix for it. The fix is to have this redstone dust right here. And this actually works, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This power is at 5, but then the block is still not be able to extend, but then the block will also update this piston in order to make it extend at 5.5. So yeah, it actually works with this dust right here. Anyway, so that's these pushers explained. So what about the others then? Well, actually here I probably should see. So 6, 7, 7. So I should say 7 to 8. Let's say 7 to 8, or 14 game tick to 16 game tick. Then what about the second time? Well, this is a 4-tick pulse, right? So of course it's going to be 4 ticks after. So we'll be having 11 to 12 or 22 to 24 game tick, like so. So it's this. Is it the same for the other side? Not exactly, I would say. But it's actually a bit more complicated than that because we have this block here that intervenes stuff. But either way, you can just pretend that they're actually quite similar. Because what happens is that we will need to consider this block being here, and then this actually powers itself. So yeah, but I can tell you that it's the same, yes, and even it's not, it's only going to be earlier. So yeah, just say that it's the same. Okay, so we know that this retracts at 12. So that's quite a lot of delay that we need because because basically what happens is that if we consider a bit more, we will see that the block will get pulled down, and then 7 to 8 it cannot be this cannot be pushed. And if we allow 11 to 12 to be pushed, it will actually have a catastrophic effect because when this block goes up and then this here pushes the piston right here, we'll be able to fire, which is not what we want, and this will actually break a lot of stuff. So we also need to ensure that 11 to 12, this second pulse cannot power this piston. So how do we do that then? Well, here, for example, we have 5, 6, 7, and then the observer is placed here instead of here. Why? This is to add extra delay. So 5, 6, 7, and then this is a 4 tick, so we immediately add to 11, 12, 13. So this actually pushes at 13. Which is after 12. So yeah, very nice. We have 13. What about this side then? So we have 5 already here. This is a 2-tick delay from this dispenser. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep, just like that. Observer spam. Easy enough. So yeah. There you go. And then these are quite trivial. You don't even need timings to explain them. It just works. Very simple. So yeah, that's basically the timings for these stuff. I guess except this one is a bit more complicated to explain, but then you get the idea. It's basically almost identical. But yeah, anyway, now it will be the best time to explain how the slider works and why it doesn't stick to, the honey and slime doesn't stick to these blocks right here. It's just because the slider is timed perfectly such that it doesn't do that. So okay, I think it's actually more important for us to realize what do we really need. Okay, so we consider this here. So this will only have an effect when the slime and honey is pulled downwards. So we have 3 to 4 here. At 4 it will retract. So we need the slider to push, maybe 3, maybe 3.5, most 4. But then if you push at 4, then you need to time it maybe with tower to priority and stuff. So yeah, we need to be careful. So best to just push it 3, I guess. So that's what we did. We actually pushed it 3 at falling edge. Now you can see it's 2 at the rising edge, but actually we don't really care. Because we only care about it pulling down, not pushing up. So so this actually locks the dropper such that it will only be depowered at 2. So 3. Good enough, right? So yeah, that is 3. Like so. Okay, now another one we need to consider is when this powers, because this is the piston that is going to extend, so it's going to push up these blocks, and we need to prevent that. So let's just see what's the delay. So it is 7 to 8. Now this powers at 7, which means at this position it powers at 9. Okay, so we have 5, 6, 7, 8. So it powers at 9, and we power this at 8, which is actually good enough. Again, so you can see here 4 tick, we have 3 tick, and there we have 9 tick, 8 tick. So yeah, 1 tick per 4, very nice. It's just sufficient and good enough. So yeah, that's basically it. So sliders are pushed at the correct times to allow the slime and honey to go through. And allowing this actually has a very nice thing, is that we can have this setup right here, because this actually pushes 12 blocks for this piston and this piston. So yeah, this actually allows this to push like so, and we no longer have to worry about push limit or something like that. And it also allows us to have wiring at this layer right here, so which is also very nice. So yeah, that's basically going to be the bottom slider timings. Now I'll go on to, of course, its counterpart, the top. Okay, so we repeat our process again. So let's see when fires what, or something like that. So what about this piston then? So this is actually slightly more complicated to think. Actually, no, not really, because it's literally this circuit right here. So let's say the power from the comparator will be 0. So 2 to what? Well, the comparator actually emits a 3.5 tick pulse or a 7 game tick pulse. So do addition is 5.5. If you like game ticks, boom, there you go. Basically that, right? What about this here then? This is again a dispenser, so that's 2 ticks of delay. So that's 3. So we have 3 to 4. Or 6 game ticks to 8 game ticks. So you see that this is actually perfectly timed. Why? Because after, this pushes, after 1 tick, this pushes, so very nice. And then you can see this actually turns off at 4. This turns off at 5.5. So it's exactly 1.5 ticks or 3 game ticks. And this is the perfect timing for, this to retract. So this retracts, and then, this retracts perfectly. So yeah. The timing is absolutely perfect. Now, what about the last piston then? Actually, we don't care, because it's literally connected via another circuit, and it has a much more delay. So this here, we have a 3 tick right here. So we're detecting it, and then dust here. Firing this piston as well, so with this here. So it's a double pole, so it will automatically try itself. So, which you can see right here. So yeah, this doesn't even extend, and only after I depower this, and then this will extend. So yeah. So yeah, that's basically the top timings. I guess also the pushers, although pushers really, they don't really have timings too much, because they're all connected by this circuit right here. So this push this. This is a double pole, so it will just pull this and push this. Now, why is this necessary? Because we have this right here. So when this is up here, we don't want this to push down, right? So, we just retract the piston. Why not? And then when this get pulled, this will push back, and only then will this observer power this piston, and also power this piston as well. And here we have a rail line to power these two as well. So yeah, that's basically that. Okay, so what about the sliders then? The sliders are more interesting this time, I guess. Maybe, who knows. So again, we only need to consider these two, actually. The one that pushes down here doesn't really matter. Okay. So we see that this pulls at 5.5. Okay. So let's see. Then this pushes at 3. Okay, so let's see if this pushes at 3. So what do we need to do about it? Yes, this is first. Now, this is 2 tick. This is 3 tick. That's 3 tick. You might think, hold on. This is 3 tick. This is also 3. Which one will push first? Well, thinking this, you'll be thinking the wrong way. Because what actually happens is that, notice this is 2. So the piston here only arrives at, or I should say, this piston here can only power at 3.5. Ah, that's why this is at 3. And this one pushes at 3.5. So this slider can push at 3. And always push. See? Alright, so what about the other side? So it's actually related to this here. So this push at 3. The block will be here after 2 game ticks, as I've already repeated myself for a couple of times. And this no block will detect it. So that's 4 tick and then 5 ticks. So that's 5 ticks. Or 10 game ticks. Okay. Then why is it that? Now, this retracts at 5.5, right? Well, guess what? We can push at 5, so, you know, that solves the problem. Yeah, simple enough. There we go. So, yeah, that's all your questions, all your timing questions to be answered already for the top extender. The top extender is surprisingly more simple than the bottom one. And indeed, when wiring it, it is indeed more simple. So, yeah, that's the 6th and the 7th question explained. So, let's go on to the last one, which is only the working principle of the slime extender. We are not going to talk about the timings, to be honest. It's not really useless to talk about the timings. So, how does the sides work, really? Well, I have this here. Yes. So, when we want to extend this piston, we actually have more things to do, because otherwise it will push this piston outwards, which isn't what we want, because later we want it to be here too. You know, it's basically a faulted setup. Okay, so how do we do that? Can we do this? No, it will be directional. You know, bad. So, we have some alternatives. Our alternative is to power this first, and power this. You know, very simple. And our solution is to have something like this. You know, just 1 tick, good enough, right? So yeah, very simple indeed. And we hence have this right here. Okay. And with the addition of also powering this here, now let's see what magic this does. And then I guess I'll also add something, add this here, like so. So, you know, we'll push this right here, and guess what? We can already push this into here, and, you know, push again. So, This here will be later than this here by 1 tick, but then it doesn't matter because this here will only be powering the piston right here at 2 ticks. So, you know, doesn't really matter. So, you know, you can do that. So, yeah, boom, it's done. It actually closes already. And in the opening, pain, because we cannot really make this observer power these pistons. So, what do? We do the silly way. Pull this, push this, pull this. This is essentially like a double piston extender, if you can see that correctly. And then push this. Oh, it pulls the pistons now. So, yeah. Okay, so and then pull this, and then push this, pull this, and then you can see these pistons will actually grab the block along the way via this observer. So yeah, pretty cool. And then now we can retract these, and then do this again. So yeah, boom, everything's done. All we need to do is to power this and this, you know, simple enough. And that's basically how the sides work. Congratulations. So yeah, hopefully this is simple enough for you to, you know, understand how the sides work. And if you want to see in detail, this is how basically things going to do that. Although this is actually a bit more complicated because it has a lot of redundant pulses. So you will see a very different animation. But then at last, it will just do the final thing as well. And yeah, basically that. Now, I guess I'll also explain more about the circuitry because otherwise people are not going to be satisfied. So why is this obsidian here? Well, guess what? We don't really have that much space to, you know, fit a toggle. So, you know, just have a hopper timer and then make it such that power is at the correct time for the falling edge, but the rising edge, if we cannot eliminate it, just add an obsidian right here. So, you know, it works. So, yeah. And then this here is just firing a bunch of times such that it works. So, yeah, that's basically it. And then this pane detects this or this, and then pushes up. Sorry, detects up, goes here, goes here. Simple enough. And these two are just hopper timers and hopper ROMs. So, yeah, nothing too special right here. So, that's basically the working principle of the side slime extender. And congratulations, that's all I'm going to say about the timings and working principle of this piston door. So you already have a basic understanding of the piston door right now. And feel free to leave if you want to for now. But then, now, I'm going to explain the second part for this video, which is going to be the piston powering layout construction, sequencing, and input joints, which will be level 2 or 3. The topics that it includes. So yeah, I'll move on now. So we start from the basis. How do we construct a piston layout for this door? I mean, constructing it is actually quite easy. I guess the real question is, how do we construct an efficient layout? Well, for this cave door, usually what people would do is to retract these corner blocks backwards. Why? Because then you can make this 6 wide. So yeah, that's the first step. And then let's notice something. We go to the back. These quad extenders are actually quite a pain. So yeah, slime. And you can choose from the top or from the bottom. And I would say both of them are not good ideas. Side is the best. The reason, well, you've seen it before. This observer, or you can also place it here if you want to, actually powers these two pistons very nicely. So that's why usually for these extenders, you will see that the longest extender are from the sides, not from the top or bottom, because the top might still be okay actually, the top. although it's already slightly more complicated. You can see like, how do you power them? It's a bit harder, right? The bottom, same thing. How do you power these? You still need two observers. You know, it's not efficient. You just use sides. Easy enough. One observer, bam, solves everything. So yeah, that's the efficiency here. Alright. So what about these? The triples. Yeah. I mean, we can try to have, you know, slime like this, which I did thought of before, but that is very complicated to execute this. So I thought, why not group things up? We use honey blocks now. So if you're able to think of this here, it's actually quite nice, because it groups these two triples and these two triples up, and it also makes everything symmetrical. So if you wire one side, you basically already wire the other side. So yeah, it's pretty nice. So, you know, just do that. Just group the triples up. That's the idea that I have. So yeah, that's basically that. And then the rest of it is pretty trivial, and I guess just to say, you know, for example, this block obviously to the side. No, nothing to consider. And there are only some blocks that really need your attention. They're usually these blocks. These blocks are blocks that you would probably only construct the layout once you figure out how your wiring is going to place. So yeah, these blocks you can just leave them out for now. And also, I guess, these blocks as well, and the piston behind. Because you can see they actually all have the same characteristic. They can all be pulled by the same distance from the two sides. Or, yeah, the two sides like so. So, yeah. So, for these situations, you can actually leave them behind and think of them later, which is actually what I did here. So, you know, that's the completed version, or semi-completed version, like so. And yeah, all we need to do is just to have you know, the pines and stuff. So give me some moment to you know, finish the this entire layout fully. I'll also, you know, just guide you through because I can. Because that's how I originally planned to do it. Okay. And one of the things that I would prefer you to do when you have just started out is, you know, to delete blocks when you have found a piston layout for the blocks. So, you know, for example, we have these here. So, okay, let's think of how we can get them. You know, maybe a double extender would work, but then, hey, we're talking about compactness, right? So, sorry, not double extender, triple extender would work, but then if we're talking about compactness, then, you know, fold would be nice. And why is this necessary? Because, you know, there's an observer right here, so, you know, let's do that. And if you really like, you can also do this, remove blocks to go along. So yeah, basically that. If you power the pistons, you also actually get to remove the blocks as you go along. So this is also pretty nice. And then now you realize, oh no, the slime blocks also pull some of the blocks back, so we just have pushers like so. So, you know, pretty nice. So you can see all these have been eliminated. We can just literally copy it to the other side. And this time I'm not going to, you know, power the layout. I'm just going to copy it like so. Now, notice that we are actually only considering the the piston layout, not the powering layout. So we can settle things a bit later. for the powering layer, like how to power the piston layer, basically. So yeah. Well, I mean, we also have this observer here already, but then, you know, we'll solve the complete of them later. So previously you have this idea right here. I guess I'll also have this block. So yeah, and then here, well, how do we retract this? There are a couple of ways. Actually, I'll also explain this in the later rest of analysis and planning thing. There's this fold layout, which I didn't opt for because it's actually quite a bit complicated to wire it. I'll explain why. I opted for this layout. Just 3 pistons. Retract, retract, retract. And it can't retract. Probably because there's block here. Oh no, oh, block here. Retract. There you go. And then, oh no, there are blocks here, so we just push them. Like so. So yeah, like a block-to-block guide on how to construct a piston layer. So same for here. And then now you probably will realize that these two have to be in sync because of, you know, these. And then once again we put our pusher pistons here. And I realize that this part is actually quite boring, but you know, you have to get through it. So here we also need piston. You know, eliminate blocks as you put your pistons. Not here. There you go. Alright. And then do the same thing for the top, I guess. And then again, it's very symmetrical as to the bottom, so just have these. Then same thing here, here and here. And then once again, you have these, push them, just remove these. There we go. And you also realize that, oh no, if we have these blocks here, then we will have these, which is not really recommended, and also it will break the push limit, so it doesn't work. So, you know, add some sliders right here. You cannot really add for the previous layers, but we can add for the last layer, so pretty nice. So just add them like this. You can always switch to the other side if you really want to. And of course, now we're going to wire the put the singles right here. Like so. And then now for the sides, no. Just place, again, put these here. And then for this double, it's very obvious that it will be retracted from the side. So, just put that here. For this here, you might not know where to put it. You know, maybe the top, maybe the side. Yeah, you just don't know for sure. Although I will tell you that my solution is all to the sides, which I'll explain later. But then, let's just get a working piston layout first. So I'll not care whether it should be placed on the sides or placed at the top or the bottom. So I'll just make a working piston layout first. Although I already know the solution. So again, remove pistons as you finish the piston layout. Like so. And then of course the flush pistons, which I will now select to be done at the top and the bottom, which will have a layout like this. There are also some alternative layouts for the flush piston double piston extender. Although I'm not going to use it because it will use up space right here. So these gone. There we go. And then lastly, for these blocks, I'll just place these, place this. I know the solution, so yeah. But you don't have to place them yet. So yeah, that will be a working piston layout, I guess, which is actually the same as the one I created, of course. But yeah, just show you what are the steps, to construct a piston layout and how the process of it, I guess. It might be boring, but then, you still need the process, right? So yeah. Now we come on to the question, how to power it. We need some suitable, inputs for the pistons, right? So, this of course involves a lot with how you plan your circuits right here. So, of course, I cannot really, give you too much, but then there are some basic ones that you should really know. For example, well, you need to power this piston. How are you going to do it? Yeah, there's really only one way. Just place an observer here. So yeah, this is absolutely sure. So just place it. And then, oh no, these double piston extenders, what will I do? Well, you can place one here, but that is going to be a nightmare. So, just place one here. Make it simple. So, yeah. And then, yeah, same argument for the top. You have this, and then, yeah, this. So the two observers solve everything. Same here. This solves everything. Alright then. Now, what about the piston here and here? How do we solve that? How do we even power that? Like, some of you might think this is a nightmare. You just can't power it. Well, there's a way, which is the way that I did, of course. Now, just place an observer here. This solves the problem here already. How about this here? Guess what? Place another piston. Boom. Of course, you can choose to place one here, but then you will also realize that this double is going to mess up everything that you have done. So, don't do that. It's just that simple. And of course, by symmetry, do it on the other side. And don't place the wrong direction. There you go. Okay. And then now let's see the bottom. Let's think. There are 3 pistons here. Which one would serve the best to be the bottom piston and the top piston? Because these two are important to consider. If this piston is going to be top piston, well, you're going to have a ton of issues. Is here, which you might think, hey, I can just have an observer here and power here, until you realize that this block is going to be moved away. So, nope, you can't do that. So that piston, not suitable. How about this piston then? If this is right, here, well, yeah, you can, do that until you realize, oh no, this line block is going to grab this observer. So, no, you can't do that. Or, it's not recommended. You need a double extender. Who wants to do a double extender here? So, of course, you're going to have this piston. Easy enough, right? Just to have this piston and observer. Make everything simple again. Alright. Next question. Which one is the best to be the bottom piston? What about this one? If you want to power it, yeah, you're going to have this. And by powering this, you also make this observer go up. That's not good. So, no, you can't do that. The best one will be these two, like so. Easy enough. And of course, the remaining one will be this here, which will be the second leg. And to power this, oh look, it's done. There you go. Easy enough. Again, like so. So it's not that hard. Yes. Just to think simply, which piston is the best to do that? And you have some solutions. Yes. Okay. Moving on to, perhaps the top. What else can we do? I guess the bottom, you can also have this here. But because I like it, I usually have this observer here very early. But other than that, it's not really that necessary. But then for the top, this is actually very necessary. Because, by raising condition, you can power the piston at this level and this level with the same observer. So, just do that. Easy enough. And usually I'll also add this hopper right here already. Because I will already plan to have, a 4-tick repeater right here to power this already. I will usually have this to plan here, but then I usually don't place it here yet because, for example, I can do this. It still works. Just a double pulse. But you already have some sort of idea of what the final product is going to have. So, these are some very easy input wirings that you should have. Now for the top here, the fold layer is also applicable, but then I'll just explain it a bit more in the planning and redstone analysis part. I'll just focus on how to make this work. Okay. So again, we ask the question, which is the best one? Well, actually, there's no best or worst here, because the top is actually more flexible than the bottom. The bottom is not flexible because we need to power at this floor level. But then the top, well, guess what? We don't even need to power via the ceiling. We can literally use quasi-connectivity and power this, for example. But then here, I didn't really do that. The main goal I have right here is to minimize the pistons I need, like the bottom here, to power the top. So I only want one. So if you only want one, what should you do? Well, we should choose pistons that can be powered directly to not be the piston at this level, at the ceiling level. What are the pistons then? Well, this and this, right? Or this. I don't care. And I will tell you that this is obviously better. Because how will you power this block? I mean, you can, but no, you're complicating stuff. So just this works best. So, you know, just have this, and then have something that passes. So, immediately from here, you can already see we are going to need obsidian. Right here. You know, just these, and then just place blocks here just to indicate that, hey, I want to part from here. So, yeah. And then for the last one, of course, it's going to be the ceiling level piston. So, we have to use this. So, nothing special here. And yeah, that's basically it. No struggles, right? So, you know, of course you can still do more than that. But then these are the essential ones I think that are useful. So yeah, that's basically going to be the powering layout done based on this piston layout. And yeah, now we go on to some fun parts. I consider the fun part because it's going to be sequences. So just now is the 9th and the 10th question answered. Now is the 11th question. So, you know, give some possible sequences for the slime and honey extenders, you know. So, well, the main one would be the sides. The top and bottom, they really have the same thing, to be honest. Although the sequence at last, they are different, but then at its core, they can be the same. Okay. Ignore the slider. We all know what the slider is going to do. It's just going to slide blocks. So just time it correctly. We don't really need to care about the slider. Just place this in. Okay. So what should we do? Well, you know, just try to power it first using the least possible moves, maybe? Doesn't have to be, but then try to do it first, you know, and then we can just improve it afterwards. So you can do bottom, then, you know, 2 sides. Unfortunately, they have to be in sync, so, you know, just wiring it with just the dust. Then again, this, wiring it with the dust, like so. Like so. So you can see bottom, middle, top. What about the opening? Top, middle, bottom, and then all those pushers. Like so. So, you know, bottom, middle, top. You can write that down, although I guess this is actually quite a bit simpler, so, but then just for good habits. Bottom, middle, top. Then, opening, top, middle, bottom. But then, it's not really repeatable, right? This is literally ABCCBA. Oh god. If you know me, I hate this. So, we're going to try to create a more repeatable sequence. So, you know, we don't have to limit ourselves to power these inputs once. We can power it multiple times, I guess. You know? So, let's do that. Also, I'll rename this ABC and CBA. Literally that. So, there you go. MMS, minimum move sequence. Although it's not really necessary to, you know, state it's MMS, minimum move sequence. Okay, so can we do that? Well, let's label stuff first, although it's not really that necessary. Labeling is a good habit though. Maybe. Well, we need to get something done first, so A first. I can do. What if I do top first? It does nothing for now, of course, but we'll do its thing later, and then do middle. So A C. Oops. A C B. Guess what? What if we do that again? A C B. Oh, it actually extends. Wow. So A C B times 2. There you go. Well, but the opening doesn't work then. A C B. Looks nice. Try that again. A C B. It actually doesn't do anything. Oh, it actually works. How cool is that? So, ACB is a repeatable sequence for both closing and the opening. I should probably write that down. And this is exactly what the bottom does. The same analogy can actually be used for the top, but then the top actually has a different sequence. Well, guess what? We need something to be done first, but let's, instead of figuring out from the closing position, from the open position, what if we figure out from the closed position? So, let's do C first. And then we can do A, B. So C, A, B. I'll also write times 2. So let's do that again. So C, A, B. Works as well. So now it is opened. We need to test if closing works. So let's see. C, A, B. C, A, B. Oh, it works as well. Yes, the pistons that want to retract, they can retract. Yes, this is pushed up already. There you go. This is actually another bottom sequence. But then, I didn't use it. The reason I didn't use it is actually quite complicated. It has to due to how things are going to be wired. Mainly, bottom has too less space to do stuff. So, yeah. And if we have C and then we need to have A in between, then actually B is very hard to get B to more delay. It's very hard to fit in delay for B. Let's just say that. So yeah, I always have a hard time to fit in delay for B. So yeah, it's not really that good. So yeah, that's why I didn't do that. I used this sequence instead. But then hey, it's repeatable. So these two, very acceptable. Right. Okay. What about the top then? The principle for the top is actually, how do you say it? Quite different. Because if you have realized, top isn't using a pulsing technique, it's using a long pulse technique from here. So, but then the bottom, obviously you can't do that. You only have an observer to power A. No, you cannot do that. But then in the top, we have space. Ooh. So you can do that. And indeed I did. So, just place down the stuff. Then, so, basically the idea I have is that, imagine a double extender. So what will be a top double extender would be this. So you have all seen this, the top extender. So have this in mind. But then you already see an issue, which is that, let's say if I have this, so this will represent when this extends and this top cannot retract this piston up back. So what will happen then? This will actually pulse twice. That isn't something that we want, actually, right? So we want this here to pulse once, but this here to have a long pulse. So we add some toggle stuff, or similar to that. I guess the best way to represent it is have this. It's not the most compact, but I don't care. And yeah, that basically works. So we don't have to have this retract here because, this retract will just retract the entire stack. So just imagine the top retracting also retracts this block already. So yeah, that will make more sense. And then now if we see, nice. Then I don't know if this works. Oh, yep, it works. So that's basically the concept I have for the top. So we can do that actually. So using a long pulse basis instead of the observer pulsing methods. So the other reason why this is nice is because we have this layout, essentially. So we can always just, power the top. We can power it once early, once late. I guess I have to build. Yeah, I guess I'll just build the one that I have. Not to think of anything. this sequencing actually turns into much more deeper than I thought it would. But anyway, that's more for you to learn, I guess. Yeah, sequencing is very related to planning as well. Although it's different in its core, but then, sorry, it's different in practice, the main idea is the same. So, yeah, this. And yeah, that basically works, right? So yeah, that's basically how the long pulse idea is going to work out. I'm not going to write these. So, what we can essentially do with this is to, have these power, because we can, and then have this power, and then have these power again. So, these two will power twice, this here will power once. It's not as repeatable, but we can definitely do that. So hence we have C, B fortic, or just long, B long, A, C. It's the same thing the other way around. So yeah, by using a double extender sort of thing, we can actually have a nice sequence. And this mess up. So yeah, that's basically how the top sequence is going to be developed. Yeah, you can see there are many possible sequences. We have the MMS, the bottom, another bottom one, and the top one. Obviously, you can also apply the bottom ones to the top one, although I choose to have the long pulse one because it's nice, I think. It's also nice to wire the sliders as well. They're very efficient. And yeah. And I guess the other reason I like to do that is because C is very near to these pushers, right? And it is very beneficial for you to do C twice, once early, once late, to facilitate for these pushers. So the early one obviously won't won't do anything to the pushers really, but then the late one will power the pushers very nicely. So all we need to do is between the early C and the late C, we power this AB thing. So yeah, that's pretty nice. So yeah, that's basically the top sequence. It sounds very complicated, but then it's actually a very simple idea, I would say. And yeah, which is for you. Alright, so let's go and talk about sides. Sides is perhaps one of the most interesting ones. So previously we have something like this. Like so. So I've explained this part. Although I didn't really explain the reason why this and this needs the 1 tick delay. Let me think. Although, I remember. Okay, so let me also explain this before I talk about the sequencing. So when you have this right here, I'll just place these here. If you power them at the same time, bad stuff is going to happen, actually. Because this is going to happen during the opening. But then the blocks over here. So you can see these pistons, they do not fire because this is a 2-tick delay. So 2-tick, this observer fires, but then this observer also fires. This will cause this observer to fail to fire at this position. That's it. And the resolution to this is to have this fire 1 tick earlier, which is why it is done like this. And hence, this observer is no longer a 2-tick delay, it's a 1-tick delay. That's it. Which also explains why you cannot have the top help out with the sides. Because it doesn't work. There you go. So it's rather much more efficient just to have the bottom solve everything. Although this will give bottom a lot of wiring pressure, it's still worth it. So, yeah, that's basically why. Okay, now we can talk about the sequence. So I guess just a small reasoning of why the input joint looks like this. I guess it's also related to how should we wire the input joints, which is also one of the questions later, but then, just explain it now before I forget. Alright, so how do we wire the sides? I mean, do the minimum move sequence first, because I already said that in the question. I'll do the minimum move sequence. Because minimum move sequence is one of the sequences that you should establish when you're starting out with sequencing. Because you can always just improve on the minimum move sequence. You know what are the exact requirements of the sequence, and then later you can just simply improve it. So yeah, the minimum move sequence isn't designed to be efficient, but it helps you to realize the requirements that you need for the sequence to have the piston layout work. That's the core of the minimum move sequence, or the core of establishing sequences. So either way, name our inputs because we can and we should. I'll just use the input I have before. So name our inputs so that we don't confuse everything. This is A. This is B. Done. 2 inputs only. What do we have? Well, obviously you have to start with something. And before I forget, place this. So, A, yeah. Well, if we do A again, we just almost reversed the entire thing that we did. So we should do B. B. Yeah, and then we do A. Oh, look, it already completes the extension. Well, congratulations. A, B, A, done. What about the opening then? Well, based on this position, and the fact that we cannot update this observer, we have to do A bunch of times. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow. And now we can do B. And then we can do A. Oh wow, congratulations. We only have to do A 7 times. Yay. Told you I don't have that breakdown. Actually, it's very simple. It's more simple than said. To be honest. The size isn't really that bad. But it makes the bottom bad. But yeah, anyway. So we need to do A 7 times. That's the observation. And then now with the minimum use sequence, we can improve on this. So what we need to notice is that B always come with A. That doesn't mean we need to do an input joint from B to A, really. We just need to just notice it. And then, actually, the only difference here is that this is ABA, so A once, B and A, but then here is A 7 times then B then A. So, yeah, that's basically that. Now, I think we need to also realize something, is that how else can closing work? Let's see. We try to change this A, because opening is more restricted. Try to change the beginning. What if we reverse ourselves? A. Can we now do BA? BA. Oh look, it works. Why? The reason is because, well, as long as we do A the odd number of times, it will always have the slime block out by 1 block, allowing B to push, right? So all we need to ensure is that the first A is to be replaced by A with odd number of pulses. And guess what? A times 7 exactly does that. Congratulations! We found a sequence that is repeatable, reusable, literally. There we go. So, yeah, that's basically it. The side sequence done already. Simple, right? But then you also realize something. Oh no, B does once after A 7 times. Well, we basically need a hopper timer, but then the hopper timers, they are a bit funky. Because they will always start early and end late. So the result is we need to deal with the start early issue. Which I probably will explain also, maybe later, but then I guess explain it now is not too bad. But so basically, we need to power B twice. Or, maybe we need to prepare to power B twice. We can do that actually. Just discover more possibilities. So yeah, this is already a final sequence, but then just for the wiring considerations, we can do B here actually. That's why the obsidian is here. If this can push, this can push. So obsidian, easy enough. So we can do B a bunch of times before A. And indeed, that's what I've done in the door. So yeah, you can always explore more wiring possibilities when developing sequences. It's also really nice to know, some properties of that, and maybe that will help you in your wiring, I guess. It's out of the questions that I've already set, but then, the more you know. The more you know about the door and its properties, the better you are off in your position. So, yeah. So, after all of these sequences and some niche things and stuff, which I've explained quite a lot than I would expect. So, let's go back to the door. Yeah, this layout. Where should we place the input? after all of the sequence knowledge we have just discussed? There are 4 good choices. I'll explain them later, but then I'll tell you there are 4. I'm not going to explain them now. The first one is, of course, the one that I've used, is the bottom. You directly power the bottom pistons. And it is also important to notice that the bottom has more wiring pressure, so placing at the bottom is more advantage. The second one will obviously be the top. Powering the top pistons doesn't seem so bad. Although I have other reasons that I would not do. The third position, this is also quite nice, is to place it here. Well, guess what? Previously, we have discovered the top sequence, which requires the B-long thing. Well, guess what? We can also do that here. Except, we cannot do that because of needing an observer like this. Well, what if we just place the input here? It is enough. So, just place an input here. We can also do the sequence or similar sequence that we did at the top. So, yeah, you can try to develop a sequence using this, and then of course this has to be a button input. If you're using a lever input, I would just ask you why are you going to do that. So yeah, that's basically that. And the fourth position, you've guessed it, well, obviously it's going to be at the top. So again, a button input is, yeah. You can also try to develop a button input sequence for that. So yeah, just that. 4 good positions, personally. Side's not a good position. The reason, this door is supposed to be symmetrical. So if you place it on one of the sides, it'll make it not symmetrical, and you basically have to do the sides twice. That's not good, right? So place it at the center. Good for your future. No pun intended. Okay. So congratulations. That's all of the, layout construction, sequencing, input joins, input position stuff explained. So finally, we're going to ask ourselves a lot of times why, how, repeatedly. So introducing, planning, and redstone analysis. So, let's go. We have 3 main questions that we want to answer. So the main question one is, why is the current layout used? So we'll explore different opportunities, different layouts, and see how they compare with the layout that I currently use. The second one is, what should be noticed when wiring the door? Because, if you have some mistakes when wiring the door, you have to redo. So that's probably the things that we want to avoid. And how to avoid it is also a key part in wiring piston doors. You don't want to really redo things, right? So you want to properly plan everything out before you actually wire your door. So, we should notice some properties that we can notice before we start to wire the door. And the third one is, what are the tips and tricks? So this is basically a self-learning question. So what can you learn from this door? What are the tricks that I've used within the door that you can learn from? So yeah, this is a self-learning question. Although this question doesn't really take part a lot in the questions that I have. But yeah, it's still an important question that we should answer. So let's get on to the first question here. Now for these questions, they are quite advanced, so I already have answers that I've written by myself. So I'll read it out first, and then I'll try to explain what I'm thinking. So the first one is that why are the flush piston double piston extenders? So basically this here and this here, located at the bottom or the top. And what about putting them at the sides? Is it optimal? So yeah, we're trying to answer this question. So what about place at the sides? What this means is that, what if we place it like this? Is it neat? So yeah. Now the reason I would say is that it's easier to power them, at the bottom or top. Why? Now the bottom actually here, I use quite a different powering method. The usual way of doing this is to have a photic repeater powering this, like right here. And this will automatically power this as well. So yeah, pretty nice. Of course, always have a drop here. So, this is the usual way. And it's also the way I use it in my 7x7 cave door. I didn't use it here because I have no space. Surprise. So yeah, this is the usual way. So you can see the bottom is actually can be easily wired, let's say, or at least has the opportunity to be wired easily. The top, more obvious actually. I literally used it here, like so. So you can also have this here. So it even does it by itself. This is even smaller than the bottom. So yeah, very useful. So you can see it's easier to wire them at the bottom or top. Versus if you try it at the sides though. I won't say it's impossible, but then you have to notice something. First off, you need an observer here just to power the piston here, right? And then this might butt this. Of course, you would say this also busts this, but then we can solve that. But then this also might butt this. So that's, potential problems, let's just say. The other problem is, can you really wire this efficiently? I mean, yeah, you can have this photic, this here. Do this. This works actually. But then, given that the bottom already has, quite a lot of stuff to go on, do you really want that? Also, the third thing, that's the most important one, is that the circuit flow. The circuit flow is not right. Usually, for here, you really want slider, right here. And having a slider actually favors having this piston right here. This piston, because you see this piston has to be posed twice, or at least unpower then power. And what better to power this piston than to use a slider? So slider, good choice or good companion to this piston. So yeah, if you're going to use a slider here, or at least you plan to use a slider here, you probably won't be using this layout. Because now the piston is here, and you need more wiring space just to wire this here, and then you also maybe have problems with this here and this, or this here, wherever you want to place it. So same thing for the top, same arguments. So yeah. It's a bit more trickier to part here. So, to the question, is it optimal? No, not optimal. The reasons, I've just explained. Have the slider, wire this. You basically have some extra wiring space that you need. And you're wasting space. So, that's not optimal. You can see how I literally have no space. So basically, the slider already directly connects to this here. So yeah, very few space is going to be wasted. And you shouldn't waste space in such a tight volume. So yeah. And hence, if you place them at the sides, it's not optimal. At least that's my opinion, if you ask me. Okay, so we explained this is not optimal. Now, the second one is that we are concerned with these 4 blocks. Now, in the actual door, I retracted all of them from the sides, which I normally wouldn't do because it's too close to the slider, and it also would affect this bottom thing here, or actually these doubles we'll need to be aware of this piston right here, I guess. So yeah, usually I won't do that, but in this door I did that. So why are these 4 blocks to be retracted by the sides? What about placing at the bottom or top? Is this optimal? To answer this, well, the reason is actually quite naive, or maybe not that satisfactory for you. The simple reason is because if you place it at the bottom or top, there's going to be more problems. If you think placing at the sides has problems, well, placing at the bottom and top, guess what? It has more problems. I'll show you why. Let's use this, this layout right here. The first problem is maybe it's more apparent when we place it right here. Oh, no. Guess what? Uh-oh. These 2 pistons seems to... I mean, you can also resolve that by here, but then notice another problem. So you basically landlock these 2 pistons. I mean, that can be easily solved a bit still, but then another thing. Well, if you're going to power this piston like this, you have no way to power this double. So at least you need to power this with a drop or double. So just imagine this is drop. And by having this, you have a problem. You can only power this double odd number of times, right? Because you need to have this block be here when closed and here when open. So odd number of times, not even. That looks like a problem. Because you have to ensure that the pusher pistons get powered last. So you need some kind of delay for the double. And also maintain the double to be odd powered. And guess what? This is very complicated. So, don't do that. Because it causes way more issues than if you just place it at the sides. And just face the problems faced by sides, it's not that bad, I can tell you. And yeah, I guess similarly the top also has the same reason. So, just hypothetically, if we place them here, just place 1 piston already shows you everything, to be honest. So you lock these 2 pistons, which still can be easily solved, but then how do you even control this top piston? And let's say if you get the control, you still need to time it, which is, yeah, quite complicated. So, just place it at the sides. It's nothing too much, I would say. And in fact, placing it at the sides also makes it a bit more efficient, because you already need this observer here, right? So why don't you just stick another double here? So, double use. You power this piston, you power this piston as well. Congratulations. So, yeah, efficiency. So, for both top and bottom, not optimal, as we have discussed. So, that's basically the second question. The first question, I guess if you count the numbering, that's 15 and 16. So, the third question corresponds to 17. Why are slime or honey blocks used at the top or bottom? It's important for us to just, look back at the shape again. So, give me some time to place the blocks back. place them. And then let's suppose that we know that the size is going to attract this. Okay, so we're back to here. There are some triples we need to solve. This triple, well, there are 4 triples here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So same for the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So, you need to solve the triples. And also notice this double. Let's use another color. Yes, just for fun. And also these. So there are 4 triples and 2 doubles that are surrounded by singles and triples. So that is a problem. Because there are too many triples, you don't even have the space to really place out your triples without having extremely complicated inputs for the triples. Like, it's really complicated. So yeah, like I previously told you that you can perhaps do something like this, but then guess what? We have 2 here. Now we have 3. And again, guess what? There's only 2 slime blocks here. So we need a fold system. And these 2, of course, we need a fold system. So it turns out to be extremely complicated. Well, I mean, you can argue about you can do this, but then you know what? Why not just do this? It's much more easy. Much more easy to handle this, right? So by using these slime and honey blocks, you can group the troublesome triples together, fix the landlocked doubles issue. So yeah, it's just efficient. Just have 2 extenders, and they can be symmetrical, and that's all done. So, just do that. Make your life a bit more easier. So, that's why I use slime and honey. If you don't use honey, just one of them, you're going to have a hard time. Let's be real. So, it's not entirely impossible, but just, I wouldn't do that, let's say. So, yeah. That's basically this question answered. And then, okay, next one. We'll go to here. So, why is the 3 piston layout? So, what do I mean by 3 piston layout? This is the 3 piston layout used for these extenders. Are there any alternative layouts? Are they optimal? Well, guess what? There is. As I previously said, you can actually have something like this. Very similar to the size, to be honest. Like, yeah, let me use it here already. I can use this here again. So yeah. So let's see if the bottom is optimal first. So I'm not going to place all the pistons, but then I'll just place one here just to illustrate. Okay. Now we need to power the piston right here, right? So we need to have this. Guess what? We need to power the piston at here as well. Uh-oh. We don't really have much space. Well, sucks to suck. This Yes. And then lastly, we also need this. So we need to place this here. And then this thing right here has a sequence that requires different number of pulses in closing and opening. Trust me, I've done this before a lot. And this is very annoying because you need to have a toggle to a piston with redstone block to a hopper ROM and then detect a redstone dust from the comparator to an observer. And having the extra toggle piston with redstone block is already too much for space in here. How I can't really see how you can fit it. And that's why I abandoned it. I actually tried quite a long time on this layout and just realized, nope, this can't really be feasible. So I changed it to the 3 piston layout. So if you ask me for the bottom, is it optimal? No, definitely not. The reason is really simple. You need to power this piston. You have no way to do it because you already used up space for here. That's it. Simple enough. And of course, if you're asking, can I do this here? No, no, you can't. It'll be directional, and also this will, make it not grabs. So, no. So the bottom, if you're going to use this fault layout, not optimal. Just eliminate it. For the top, however, let's see. We use this again. Guess what? What do we really need to make this work? Well, I can tell you. The inputs are just like this. Done. Why? This piston can be powered by this observer. Yeah. This observer can also power the piston here. Wow, amazing. Observer can power in 2 positions. How unexpected. So there you go. You can power at 2 positions. Just with 1 observer. Top is easier than the bottom. Literally. So, if you ask me the fault layout, is it optimal in top? Yes, it is. But then, there's still some things that you need to notice if you're trying to wire this. Is that slime and honey, one is solid, one is transparent. And I can tell you, honey is easier to wire. Why? The reason is because honey already has a very standard solution. The solution is this. Versus slime, if you have this here, what will happen is that this, if you just only post this here, this will get left out like this. That's not what you want. Because it powers through this line. So you need to have some circuits that can fix this issue, which isn't too bad actually, I would tell you. But then decide, 3 piston layout, easy to wire. Just everything straightforward. Even the sequence is straightforward. You don't even need to have a hopper ROM that does, different pulses for opening and closing. You don't even need that. So just use a 3 piston layout, reusable sequence even. So just do that. So yeah, that's basically it. It's still optimal for top, but then I decided not to use that. Okay, another question. Again, alternative layouts, but this time for the sides. Any alternative layouts though. There are some other ways to not use the fold. Well, it's just another kind of fold, but then, yeah. There's this here. You might wonder how this fires. I'll show you. This. And then this push up. Not here. And then do a double here. Basically double. This can work. Is it optimal? No. Definitely not. Let's not even consider this here. Because what you need is this. And let's say you still use the thing that I have. So this is definitely optimal for this. The fold here is definitely optimal. But if you place the observer here, you are going to have a ton of problems. Guess what? You need to occupy space for the top just to move this and then push this piston in to create space right here to have the observer go out. And then when the opening is finally done, you need to have this to push back up. Guess what? This is too annoying. You literally space way too much space. So just be a good person, place it here. Good for yourself. So yeah. It's too much. That's it. So yeah, not optimal. Definitely not. So yeah, sometimes you can have alternative layouts that are really silly, but they can sometimes still catch your eye, and then you try to build it, and you realize it doesn't work, and you have to rebuild it. So think carefully about your layouts, I guess. So yeah. So that's going to be all for the alternative layouts thinking and stuff. Why do that? Why use this layout, basically. Now, let's talk about input position, which I previously talked about before. So, why is the input at the bottom center? Well, I have a very lame answer. Historical reasons. If you know what I did before, in 2020, I did my 7x7 cave door. I used almost the entire circuit like this. It's very similar to the 7x7 if you realize I almost like copy and paste it to the 8x8, to be honest, except for this part. This part is newly added. So yeah, I already have this circuit in place, so I have the picture of how to wire it already. So yeah, personally more comfortable with this circuit here. I already have the setup to do it. So yeah, that's why I opted this. I rarely use top input because it's quite troublesome to wire the bottom, actually. Now, besides this lame reason, I also have maybe another good reason for you. Notice I've actually repeated myself maybe once or twice that the bottom has a more significant wiring pressure. The reason is that bottom is responsible to power the sides. As I previously established that if you try to do things like this, it doesn't work. So, if the top cannot help out, well, then the bottom has to do all of it by itself. And that's why bottom is very hard to wire. It takes a lot of time for me to wire the bottom. And the top I literally just completed in 2 to 3 hours. Versus the bottom few days. So yeah. And the theory that I established is that the more wiring pressure a place is, the more suitable you should to place inputs near it. Why? Because you use less signal transmission space to the wiring pressures area. Think about it. If you try to place it at the top, what will happen? Thing is, you will have a slider push to the bottom, and then the bottom needs a returning circuit to push the slider back up. That returning circuit will cause you problems, probably. And that's probably what you don't want. And that's why I didn't do it. I didn't place it at the top, I placed it at the bottom. So, yeah, that's basically it. And I already previously told you what are the other possible locations. One will be the top, another one will be these pistons, and the final one will be these pistons. So yeah, I think the most probable one would be to have these pistons here. This should be the most probable, because it's still at the bottom. You just need a slightly different sequence to fire the bottom, which I think is not too bad, to be honest. So yeah, that's basically going to be input position explained. Okay, now speaking about bottom, you might also realize that in this circuit I gave you to explain the bottom, you can see it only is wired by one side only. Why is that? And is it possible to control the bottom with both sides? Well, this has to relate to a bit of the sides. You can see there are 4 hoppers here. Why do I need 4 hoppers? Because I have 5 observers here only to power these, and versus I only have 3 observers here to power this. So there's too much delay for this circuit. These 5 observers, too much already. I need to think of a way to make this faster or make this slower. Well, guess what? I can make this slower by adding 2 more hoppers. So that's why. But then adding 2 more hoppers has a problem. Hopper hash, hopper aging. I'm not sure if this will exactly affect the door. I haven't tested out a location or timing where this happens. But then, theoretically it might. So I use my wiring ability to avoid having aging problems by just having it power from one side only. Because we need to notice that the bottom has to be symmetrical. The speed of the extensors has to be symmetrical. They have to push up at the same time, push down at the same time. Although there are some linear timing spaces, let's just assume that they have to be in sync all the time. So that's why if you're going to wire from both sides, you are going to have a risk of the sides not matching each other, which is bad in animation, but even worse, it might break the door. So that's why I chose to just wire from one side. It's not too bad. The only worst thing that happened is just this piston here. Although previous versions, they are more unsync pistons, but then I fixed most of it now except this one. But then I can tell you that just place a dust here if you really care about it. It actually works already. So yeah, if you are going to ignore the hopper aging issue, yes, you can actually just, copy and paste from the left circuit to the right circuit. Really, no one's going to stop you. It actually works if there's no hopper aging given. So yeah, it works. Just do it. So yeah, that's basically why I only wired it from one side. So you can see the planning that I already have. I know hopper aging is going to come. So if you want to avoid this issue, avoid this door being unreliable, guess what? Wire from one side. Don't wire from both sides. Easy enough. it's not really too bad, to be honest. So yeah, that's this question answered. So okay, let's move on to the next one, which I think is a bit silly. Analyze the critical wiring space and the general circuit flow of the bottom. Because we kinda already did it. So what do I mean by critical wiring space? Well, the space that is critical is the space that you need to be careful of, because once you used it, you might obstruct other things. So that's why I call critical. So I guess it's good to look from here. So, all the space that are near here, these are going to be critical. And actually this entire thing as well, because you might need some circuitry to wire from here to here, because these here are in a weird position, so you might need some circuits just to wire back to here, which obviously in the door I really did. So that's critical wiring space. The space as well, I guess, because once you use it, you obstructed everything. And if you obstruct things, well, you need to redo it. So, just be careful. Critical wiring space isn't really that useful. It just tells you where to be careful. Okay, and also this here. This is also a critical wiring space, because this is the only position besides here. This is actually not really a position, because you kind of need obsidian here. And what you're going to power from here? Well, it's too high. So yeah. So this is also a critical wiring space. The reason is because you need to power the piston here. So you need to block him. Critical wiring space, easy enough. So basically all the blocks are near these stuff. This is critical. Yeah, basically. So we only concerned with the bottom, so we are not concerned with the size. So yeah. Now, what will be the general circuit flow? You can understand this question as, what is the proposed sequence? Partially, it's not entirely. Well, we just did it in the sequencing section. So yeah, that will be the general circuit flow. Like, just how do you even connect the pistons? So we connect here, and then you have observers, connect here, and then some delay, connect here. And for this side, same thing, connect here, and then some delay, connect here, and then some delay from here, and then connect here, for example. So that's the general circuit. You don't have to place the circuits exactly, we're just analyzing it. So yeah. So that's I would say partially the thing. Of course, there are still more to think of apart from the sequences stuff. Is that how you're going to exactly approach this? So you would know that by the time if I have this input here, of course I have to do things here, and then we will wrap it out to the back, and actually to the very back, because we'll later introduce some hopper ROMs, hopper timers. So yeah, bottom is very connected to the sides, so you're going to wrap it out back to here, and only back to here can you control these pistons. And also be careful with the space. This space is actually quite important, because you might need to wire here, and indeed I have. So yeah, I did this even. So yeah, just you need to be careful of things. So yeah, so the main idea will be just input, wrap it out back to here, and then do whatever this has to do, and then do any delay here, and then just wrap it out, and then here make sure to just leave out some space to wire this. So yeah, this is how you plan your circuits. Basically, you have a general idea where you're going to place stuff. And obviously you can have a different solution, maybe, oh, I think this here is good to place your hopper ROMs. Yeah, do that, but then it might not work out. So that's the part where you need to test. So yeah, you can have different solutions, but then you just have to find a working one, let's say. But yeah, you need. The most important thing is just to have a general picture, I guess. So yeah, it is quite subjective for this question. So yeah, anyway, the last one for the bottom, finally. What are the tricks used at the bottom? So what can you learn from the bottom? Basically, I'm trying to say. Well, there's some things. This repeater blocking this dropper. The thing is, we only care about the falling edge of this. We don't care about the rising edge, as we have established in the timing section. So this locking mechanism, I guess, is quite nice, because previously I have a very ugly circuit. That'll also do it, but then it makes the sides not in sync. It's actually very terrible. And only after a couple of revising do I actually get into this position right here. And previously it's actually quite bad. The sinking of the pusher pistons are actually very bad. And until now I thought of this solution, so it's quite nice. The locking mechanism took quite a while actually. And the other cool thing is I actually use this trick quite a lot in this door. I probably didn't use this too much, mainly because maybe this is a 1.13 thing for this waterlogged stair. But either way, use a dispenser. This dispenser is useful because it gives you 2 tick of delay, which corresponds to 2 observers here, and then 2 here, in 1 block, basically. While it also gives you an instance to here. So this is instance, so from here to here is instant instead of having a 1 tick delay here. So yeah, this is a nice trick to do that basically. So both of these are just to facilitate for the correct timings, and yeah, it is really nice. This dust dot, it looks nice, but it's not really a trick, say. So yeah, that's basically the tricks that I've used at the bottom. I would say it might be not that surprising, not that bit of a trick, but then the wiring of the bottom is I cannot really stress how difficult it is actually. It's really intense because you have to also consider with the sides. Like you need to think of what the sides need and how the side circuit can also cater for the bottom circuits. This is actually the hard part, I think. So yeah. And speaking of sides, now I'll also talk about the sides. So, okay. The first question will be, why is using hopper ROMs optimal for the sides? And how many do we need? Where should we position them? So we established from the sequence that we need A 7 times. Oh god. Well, we actually need A 8 times. So yeah, if we need this many times, we should probably use a hopper ROM, have a redstone dust with changing signal strength, and just detect it. So that would give you 1 hopper ROM on each side already. And guess what? B is power after the 7 A's. Well, I mean, you can technically try to wire B from the same hopper ROM that you use to wire A. It's possible, but then this is only theoretical. In actual case, this is a lot harder because of the delay that I have. Mainly because you only have this little space to wire the sides. Really. At the bottom you might have more, but then you really only have from one way to wire the sides. So yeah, it's you can't fit much more delay, as I've established previously. So the solution is to use another hopper timer or another hopper ROM, if you like to say that, to control B. And realize that I previously said that we need to explore more circuit opportunities. This is also why that happens, because the fact that I decided to give another hopper timer to B, this obsidian is needed, and then I also need to figure out that you can just power B at this moment. Literally, it does nothing. And also, this decision have make me think a lot more on where should I place the hoppers, ROMs, and something. So yeah, and hence comes the question: where should I put them? Obviously, you can see the door solution is that I place it like this. So the basis is to place it at the outermost leg. Also, I guess it's more interesting that previously this isn't like this. These two hopper ROMs are reversed. Literally. So yeah, this is controlling these here. This is controlling the dust. So yeah, previously this is a lot more different, but finally came out with this version where both of them are of the same thing. So, but then the main conclusion that I have throughout my wiring experience is that you should place it on the outermost leg. For one, it's easier to just get an output, because we realize that we already have this power dust here. So since we only have A 8 times and B twice, because we can add another time for B right before A. So, you know, we can basically have two hopper ROMs that turn on and off, basically. So, yeah, basically we don't need a T flip-flop for the hopper ROM. We don't need that. So yeah, it's quite nice. So we can just really leech it off from here to this kind of stuff here. So yeah, because A does 8 times, so we can just divide 8 by 2 and then just do 4 times once, 4 times the other time, and then for this here, you know, you can just do stuff. So it will do the first time, which does nothing, and the second time, and it does stuff. So you know, that's basically the concept that I have for the hopper ROMing of the sides. So yeah, basically that. And then this question again is quite silly. Analyze the critical wiring space and the general circuit flow of the sides. You really already have an answer to this, to be honest, because the only space you have for here, if you cannot power from here, is to power from here, and the input joint tells us that we need to do this, and then, you know, have this dust, and then yeah, just already everything based on timings. You already have this circuit right here, so you don't really need to analyze the critical wiring space for this here. The size is very rigorous, well fixed, and I guess for this side is even more rigorous, because you only, if you already established that you want this stuff right here, well, guess what? You're definitely going to occupy the space here, so you're never going to just leech it up from here to wire this, but because you still need to wire this here, so you need a solid block here, definitely, and then, you know, observe it here, and then the easiest way to do that is to, of course, have this here, and then, you know, just fire it like this. So yeah, this is a lot more rigorous for the right side than the left side. So yeah, you know, just do that, basically. We've got so yeah. So if you ask me critical wiring space, well, we also established that the hopper ROM has to be somewhere around here, so you know these will start to get more critical than usual. So the general circuit flow, we really already have input joins, so it doesn't really matter too much. So all we need to do is just to make sure that it detects from the hopper ROM, and then it detects from the hopper timer and stuff. So yeah, it's not really that much. So yeah. Now here comes an interesting one, because this is one of the later videos, so it's not really about planning anymore. It's about hopper ROM programming. This is 3-5. So what I asked here is, what are the properties of the hopper ROM used by the sites? So we basically need to analyze the items that we have in the hopper ROM, which is this. Surprise, surprise. So 1 shovel, 3 snowballs, 1 shovel, 3 normal items, 1 shovel. So to analyze the properties of a hopper ROM, there are a few properties that a hopper ROM can exhibit. It can exhibit the number of changes of the signal strength from the hopper ROM. So that's one thing. But then the other thing that frequently gets ignored is the pulse frequency information. So basically, we need to look at how the pulse frequency does stuff for us. So how frequent does the hopper ROM change its signal strength to help us in something? So that's the main thing within this hopper ROM. Because you want to establish a hopper ROM that works is very easy. I can literally just throw a bunch of normal items and it will work, absolutely. But then we want to make it fast. So for example, maybe snowballs, and then we can still improve based on snowballs. And this is the final results. This is, I think, the most optimized already. So yeah, what is pulse frequency information? Well, it basically just tells you the information that how many items that you have in between the two signal strength changing item. So the first item will always be signal strength changing, right? So that's 0 for the first one. And then how many items are between the first signal strength changing how many items are there between the first signal changing item versus the second one? And that is 1 actually. And then repeat ourselves because there are 4 pulses. So 0 to 1. The first pulse and then second 3, 4. So, because there are 4 pulses, so the pulse frequency information will have 4 numbers. And this turns out to be on both edges actually 0, 1, 1, 3. So this means that between the first and the second item, signal changing item, I'll just call them between the first and the second item, there is 1 item. Between the second and the third, there's also 1 item. Between the third and the fourth, there are 3 items. So yeah, if you are not sure why this is true, so 0, and then this is the first one. 1, 2, so 64 plus 4 is not enough, but then 64 plus 8 is enough. So 0, 1, and then 2, so 0, 1, 1, this is also 1 actually, oops, 0, 1, 1, then here we have 3, until the last one goes to here. And the reverse is also true actually. So when this leaves, it obviously will have a signal strength change. And then after 1 snowball leave, the second snowball leaving is also signal strength changing. After 1 snowball leaving, this shovel leaving is obviously signal strength changing. And then the last 3 normal items leave, and then the last one will be signal strength changing. So all again 0, 1, 1, 3. So yeah, it's same for filling up and filling out. Basically that. It sounds complex, but really, if you just refer to the signal strength items needed for signal strength that I have in 1-2, the table, or just refer to Minecraft Wiki if you like it, you can already see how the signal strength is going to. So yeah. So 0113 basically. If you really want to see. Yeah, basically. So yeah, that is this pulse frequency information. So the second sub question is, how do such properties help maximize the door speed? So how does 0113 help the door? Well, 0 at first, that means the hopper ROM is instantaneous in reacting, so that's good. And then these two ones are to ensure that these pistons have enough delay before the next pulse fires. So one is minimal. So you need at least one. And then the last information will be 3. So why 3? Well, we need to power B, right? No, not here. We need to power B here. So B is between the two A's. So this means that we need some delay to power B. And it turns out that in order for both closing and opening to work, we need 3 items of delay between these two pulse, signal changing items. So yeah. And by having both the closing, both filling up and filling out to be 0113 in pulse frequency information, we actually make the hopper ROM maximize in speed. So yeah. Hopefully this doesn't really confuse you what does 0113 still mean. For example, it's a bit more complicated. I'll talk more in 3-5 probably. Because it's also linked to part of my mini research, I guess. It's not really that rigorous or anything, but then it's just for fun, just to see how just 2 hoppers can lead to some interesting math maybe. So yeah, this is one of the interesting things maybe. And I guess in the video I'll also show you how reversing this hopper ROM will make stuff change, for example. So yeah. And yeah, hopefully you get what I mean. If you don't, well, try to see if you can still get it after watching it the second time. So yeah, anyways. So okay, we established that we need to use hopper ROMs for the sides. Then how does this affect the top? Now I specifically asked, how should we wire the push down of the slider? So just giving you some hints, I guess. Well, given that we need to have this hopper ROM, this means that this slider must push down with some delay, because we need to wait for these items to just go out first before we can push it down, right? So simple logic. So yeah, this means that we need delay for the slider to push down, and what best to get delay than from another hopper timer, of course. So just try to think of solutions, or try to see where the space allows to have this hopper timer, which I just think this is the good solution, or the good place to place it. So I thought of other solutions as well, but then they don't really work out, and this one works out nicely. So yeah, pretty happy with that. So yeah, basically that. And now the last 2 questions, the one before the last is, analyze the critical wiring space and the general circuit flow of the top. Again, a very silly question, to be honest. So we already established that we want to have these 2 powers, so these 2 are going to be wasted, unfortunately. So critical wiring space, this here, of course, because we need to power this block. This here, of course, because we need to power these 2 blocks, all the stuff. And then, beware of these blocks, of course, because, you have to wire the pushers as well. So yeah, but then I also want to point out that very this is from my experience, is very often for you to use some very niche spaces. I guess it's also the same with the bottom. I didn't mention it previously. Is that there is this space, the corner space, that is very important. It's also critical wiring to me, to be honest. Why is that? Because see, we have the slider that pushes to the top, and then we have this here as an output. But then sometimes we cannot really cross from this here to the things inside here. So one output is not enough. We need to take from another output. And we're better to take another output than from this corner corridor here. Literally. So yeah. This corridor to me saved a lot of attempts, to be honest. Because by using this space efficiently, you can create some neat circuits that just becomes very helpful. Because again, you don't really have too much wiring space, so you need to squeeze in every single possibility. So we're better than to place the circuit here. So the corner corridor is actually quite important sometimes, and especially in here in the top. The bottom is also quite important as well because I have this here. Although I didn't use it here, but then this here is still quite important. Just in case if you need to use it, so there's always a way. So yeah, the critical wiring space done. General circuit flow. I already explained the sequence. So you want perhaps maybe a long pole space circuit to long pulse this, one pulse this, and then long pulse will turn off for this, and then we have this power early, power late, and yeah, that's basically it. So these and these are basically independent and separate. So yeah, there are really not much interactions between the two, to be honest. And then just have this, and then wire this at the correct timing, and then you are all set and done. And to be honest, top is very less in wiring pressure, to be honest. Like I completed it in 2 to 3 hours, and you can probably see that the pressure is very small. And I can even say that there are definitely more alternatives than to this method. So yeah. So the final question, finally, what are the tricks used at the top? Honestly, not too much, to be honest. I mean, this dispenser again, I don't use it quite often. And this dispenser again is useful because it turns from a long pulse to just one short pulse, not two, just one. So it reduces one pulse. So yeah, very nice for that. Because it only detects the rising edge basically. So very nice. If you count this as nice, yeah, I guess you can. Just remove the piston and just push it back just for the delay. So I guess the bottom also uses it as well. And one last thing is that the corner corridor again. So if you have an output that it will be locked, it will be locked, for various reasons. Well, just try to squeeze another one. From these tight spaces, perhaps you can squeeze some magic out. So this here just perfectly shows you can just squeeze that. So yeah, and that will be all of the example questions answered. Congratulations, it's been 2 hours and 39 minutes. So yeah, congratulations for you to complete this video. I'll just briefly talk about some exercise questions, like what I'm trying to refer to. So yeah, so to not make you confused. So question 1 is just to ask you, how can I power these pistons, specifically these 6 pistons, differently? Well, just try to think of some circuits to do so. So this is just for 1-1, so just for the very beginners. So, try to do that. Yes. So instead of using this dust line, you can try to think of other alternatives, probably. So yeah, good luck on that. So okay. So 1-6, at the top there are dispensers. What dispensers? Well, there are only 2. So this one and this one. And yeah, so these are the dispensers. Powered by long pulse. So the 3.5 tick or 7 game tick pulse, I call it a long pulse. Okay, so just bear with me. and I tell you to state the name of the circuit with respect to the long poles to the observer. So long poles to the observer, what do I mean? So this, from this comparator to this observer. So what is it basically? So just imagine this is a long pole, so, or you can imagine it as a lever even, sometimes. So yeah, imagine it as a lever. Probably that would be better to say. And then what is the what does this do basically from this comparator to this observer? What does this do? So, just asking you if it's a mono or a toggle. If it's a mono, what type? I guess if it's toggle, what type as well? Just say that. Easy. And then 1-11 question, so question 3. For the top flush piston, so here, so this has a 1 tick delay. Meanwhile, this has 3 ticks delay, like so. So explain why the discrepancy of 2 ticks. So this is 1 tick, this is 3 tick. So the difference is 2 tick, or 4 game ticks. Explain why this delay is needed for this to retract here and then to be retracted upwards. And while if you only have a 1 tick, so for example you have a rail here and it doesn't work, just explain why. In terms of timings, of course. And then the necessity of the target here. So that's the 4.2-1. So this is the target. Where is raising condition applied? Try to find it. I probably already mentioned the name already, so it should be easy to find. Explain how the input circuit ensures the door work with both player input and repeater input. There's a important principle that you can use already to just use the principle, and you can already explain the thing. You don't have to explain every single piston. Oh, this piston powers at which timing, which this piston powers at which timing. You don't have to do that. One very important principle already tells you that this is definitely going to work with player inputs or repeater inputs. So just try to find the principle. Where's the full concept applied? A lot of places. Try to find them all. And then for 3-2, 3-4, this is the most interesting one. Construct a different circuit with the button input here. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is possible or not, but then, it's just a fun question. Try to figure it out if you have time, or if you don't, whatever, doesn't matter. And then 3-5, this circuit isn't really designed that properly, but then just leave here for fun. So prove that reversing the items of the hopper ROM here will cause the door to break. And I want you to consider pulse frequency information for this. I don't want you just to say, oh, because reversing it will just break stuff. This here will break stuff. I want you to analyze it fully. So, yeah, basically that. So try to think of how the pulse frequency information changes. And if you want to be more advanced, you can try to think how reversing a hopper ROM, the items within the hopper ROM will change its pulse frequency information. You can try to think of that. It's actually not that hard of a math question to think. So yeah, good luck with the exercise questions. To be honest, I don't really expect too many people to do them. But then, if you have time, feel free to do them. And it's also quite a bit unusual from the questions that I usually have in my Combat Wrestling series, but then yeah, I guess hopefully you enjoy the questions that I have. So yeah, thank you for watching this extremely long video. It's going to be 2 hours and 45 minutes, and yeah, see you in the next video.